welcome to my video podcast where I talk about all the crafty things I'm doing. Currently, it's still all yarn. I think for now we can just call it a knitting and spinning podcast, and I'll spruce in some other stuff soon, I think. I definitely have a big project, a painting project that's done now, and I want to definitely show that off, but today it's all gonna be knitting, spinning, and actually I have a little bit of crochet for you and also a little bit of sewing. So it's not just yarn. Okay, my name is Caroline. I'm recording this in the northern part of Germany and we have a super sunny day today. I'm back to my old camera setup, the one I used in the first episode, but this time I shouldn't have shifting focus because it's all manual, so it won't change as I'm talking now. I just hope it is in focus, but let's just assume it is. And I have my phone on a separate recording here, so if I want to show you something in detail, I can blend that in somehow in the editing process. My last episode, we don't need to talk about this. I just needed to get it through my system. It took so long since I recorded something and it was so much stuff to talk about. And I feel like, I didn't even show you everything I had. And I felt after I probably could have left out a bunch more, but I just needed to purge the system, and now I can do it monthly, which I feel like from what the amount I have to show you is perfect for an episode. So I'm very excited for today. And let's jump straight in, shall we? I'll start with knitting, and I do have a finished object to show you. And that is my weekender sweater. It's done. It has 2 sleeves, yes, like a proper sweater. It's a pattern from Andrea Maury, as I'm sure most of you will know. It's a bottom-up sweater. It has a split hem. Actually, now I can do my phone thing. It has a split hem. And you knit the sweater inside out so that you actually see the pearl texture on the outside. You have a really nice central spine that goes along the front and the back. The front and back are exactly the same, so far, I don't know if I'm going to put a tag into it. I don't know if it actually matters, really. And then at the neck, it's a, I don't know, in Germany we call it a Submarine cutout neckline, because it's like a wide, narrow neckline, like the shape of a submarine, U-boat. And yes, and then the sleeves you knit in, you have the knit side outside, so you knit those the right way. And a 1x1 rib uses the tubular cast-on method, which I really love. I think the first time I used the tubular cast-on was with the hunter vest in it for my husband, and I really love the look of it. So now I've always been using it whenever I have a 1x1 rib, and Andrea Maury, that she seems to have that as her kind of standard cast-on as well. I really love the sweater. I was a bit apprehensive with it being too itchy, and it is definitely a very rustic yarn, and I would not wear it on just my skin. It's definitely something where I need something underneath, potentially with a little longer sleeve, not just like short sleeves. But it definitely softened up after blocking. I blocked it twice. Like I blocked the body when I was done knitting it, just to see like if the shape, because it's a boxy cut, right? So I wasn't sure if I'm going to like that either, but it looks good. It looks good. I knit the size small, I think, like just from the circumference, just because I didn't want it to be overly boxy, and that seems to be good. I think I could have gone down just a little bit more, but it's nice. It's really nice. It's nice, especially like in spring, and I'm assuming in autumn, when like it just gets chilly in the mornings and evenings, and you can just kind of throw it over instead of a jacket or something when you're going out. So it's a perfect piece for that, because as I said, you definitely need to wear something underneath anyways. because otherwise for me it would be too scratchy. But I'm really happy I can wear it, and I really love the look of it. And yeah, it's super light. Oh yeah, right. I knit it with Holst Garn, which is a Danish yarn, which is actually light fingering, but I held 2 strands together in 2 shades of gray. The one is flannel gray and the other one is Oxford gray. And that creates this really nice mold effect, which I think Andrea Maury did the same. I'm actually not sure, but she definitely has this mold. Either it's a mold yarn or it is 2 held together. I'm not sure. Yes, but I'm very happy with it. The sleeves are a touch long, I think, but I'm not going to rip them back, I don't think. I like the sleeves long, but yeah, if the weather is kind of getting warmer, then you don't really need the long sleeves. But I feel like in winter, then that will be really nice. But yes, one project done. I entered it into the... Oh yeah, I did knit this, like I pushed forward with this project because Andrea started the DRK sweater cowl. Due to the whole world situation we're in, lots of people are at home, lots of people have more time than they usually have to craft and knit. So she started this cowl where you can knit any of her sweater patterns and join, and there's probably going to be some awesome prices as far as I can see the sponsors of this cowl, so fingers crossed. Anyways, that was my only finished object I have. So what do I have on my needles? This project, you know from last time, I didn't make too much progress on it, but a little bit. And that is my boxy from Hohi Locatelli. Yes, so I didn't put in the project keeper right when I did the last episode. But this is roughly where it was, I think. I made a little bit of progress once I was done with the weekender. So I think I should actually measure, like, I think I need to knit 40 centimeters or something. And this is obviously 20. There's definitely another 10 in here. And yeah, I probably need to knit a little bit more until I need a part for the sleeves. So really loving it. I'm using Wollmeise yarn on the blend base, it's called. And it's a blend of, do I know the percentages? I don't, but it's merino mainly, and then there is some cashmere and some poly in it. And it's awesomely soft. It has a really, really nice drape in it, which is actually the reason. I know I talked last time about the potential of me steeking for the sleeves because I don't want to knit flat because of my gauge problem and stuff. But I think I might do it after all, because this is superwash yarn, and superwash yarns aren't very good for steeking because you need the yarn to hold on to each other, kind of, which superwash is designed not to do because it's not supposed to felt, and you do need a little bit of felting properties for a steek to really hold. I know you could sew it, but then you kind of lose the drape. I mean, it's tight sleeves, so you don't really have the drape necessarily in the sleeves. But I don't want this. I don't know. I'll think about it. I'll check the pattern again, like how the armholes will be exactly and how I feel about sewing it. But yeah, I might just knit it flat and use 2 separate needles. Because yeah, this is a fixed needle pair, so I can't do the same trick as I did with a weekender sweater. But I could just use 2 separate needles, I guess, and get my gauge that way. I think I'll just try. If I can knit it flat, it's fine. I mean, it's a whole lot of purling, so we'll see. It's probably going to be slow going, but I do have another sweater on the needles right now, and I think this is just going to go on the back burner a little longer, because I'm just so excited about this other sweater. My next work in progress, though, is not the sweater it is a pair of socks. I also showed you this pair last time. It is the Dear Björn sock by... Sorry, I don't remember her name. I'll put it on the screen. It is a beautiful sock pattern that appeared in the 52 Weeks of Socks book released by Lane magazine. And it has this really nice, what do you call this? Stripes. Texture. And I was already done with the one sock last time, and I am on the second pair now. The problem, I realized, I just cast on for the second pair and called it a day and started knitting. And then I realized, looking back at the pictures, that the pair of socks aren't the same. Like, the stripes go in opposite directions for each pair. So you have a left sock and a right sock. And of course, I did not think about that when I cast on for this sock. So now they're showing in the same direction, and now I need to think about if I want to rip back. I'm not too far along yet, so I might just not rip back. I actually have to ask my husband, because those are going to be his, if he'll mind or if he wants them to go the proper way, if he finds it weird, if they're kind of like, because I think it'll end up looking just weird because the stripes are kind of going like, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. He decides. I wouldn't know how to decide for myself, to be honest. I think I would just have them languish a while before I made that decision. I'm knitting this with some commercial sock yarn. I think, was this the online one? I think it's online Vierfach super sock or something. So it's some kind of wool with poly. And it's a tweedy yarn, which I really love the look of. I'm very sad those socks aren't going to be for me, which they were originally intended. The next project on the needles is another sock project. You know the yarn. This is the yarn I used to do my Hermione's Everyday Socks with. I have lost the ball band, so I don't know what it is. It's a commercial yarn, so it's very, very soft. I don't know, but I think it might just be poly. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it's. I mean, I'm sure there is some wool in here, but I feel like there's gonna be a higher percentage of poly, which makes it soft. It's a single ply, so I'm curious to see how that will hold up. But yeah, I'm just knitting a vanilla sock with this because I realized I never knit just a vanilla sock. I'm complaining about not knowing how many stitches I need to cast on so the socks will fit me, by the way. My daughter pulled out the one side of the needle, so I'll have to catch all those stitches, but that's fine. I'm getting used to that. She likes to pull on my needles, especially because I have these nice red cables, the Ciao Goose, and they're just a real magnet for her, so she loves pulling at those and all my stitch markers and stuff. It's fun. I'm sure moms out there will know about that. Anyway, so yeah, as I said, which is why that pair of sock ended up for my husband. I think that method I used 64 stitches because I was actually basing that design on Nora's Alltagssocken, which is the vanilla sock recipe from Nora of the Cat and White podcast. And she uses 64 stitches as a cast on, and I just used that, but it just turns up too wide. I'm knitting those socks, like the Dear Björn socks, on 2.5 millimeter, I believe. Let me check that. Or is it 2.25? No, 2.25. And yeah, they're just too big. They're just too big around my calf. So I'm trying now 56 actually, and I'm doing this on a 2mm needle. I like the gauge, even though it's still quite loose, but that might just be the yarn. I think the single ply is also, it doesn't have a lot of springiness to it. I think that's kind of the nature of a single ply. It's not quite as bouncy as the plied yarns. But it's good around my calf. It is actually quite tight to get it around my heel. So I'll definitely have to do a few increases for the heel, and then probably have to decrease down after the heel for then the foot part. And I'm planning on using in Germany it's called ergonomische Spitze, which is like ergonomic toe. I don't know if that's a thing in English too. As I said, not a sock knitter. I'm really no expert on all this terminology, but I am going to use the fish lips kiss heel again for this pattern, because I do want to see if that fits me well or not. But yeah, other than that, not much to say about this. Just working on figuring out my preferred sock. Cast on, size, fit, heel, toe, all that jazz. And my last knitted project on the needles is the one I'm crazy about right now. And it is another Andrea Maury pattern. I already talked about this last time, and it is the Shifty. Ooh, it's a little bit bunched up on the needles. How do I show this? Ooh, lots of yarn barf. I'm sorry. Yes, so it's a top-down sweater. Has a few short rows in the back, which you knit with a stranded color work, and then the rest of the sweater you do with a Mosaic Method, which I thought I never did, but I realized when I was doing it that I did it before. It wasn't called Mosaic, so I wasn't aware that that is Mosaic. But yeah, it's really fun. It means you don't knit with two strands at a time. You always just have one color to work with, which is nice. That way you don't have to deal with all the yarn management. And yeah, I'm really loving the work on this sweater. I'll see if I like the finished object. So far it's, I think, mainly gonna be a process knit, because it's so addicting to work with hand spun yarn. I don't know, there's just something so great about that. I'm just flying through this because I want to get through my first ball of yarn so that I can move on to the next two colors, which I'm actually gonna insert me showing off the skeins. I had to record this episode again because my first go, it was perfect. One go, I didn't have to stop. I mean, I just stopped because it stops after half an hour, but one recording, I thought it was all well, and then I didn't record my audio. I'm using a microphone, but the cable I used was apparently broken. So I double checked this cable works. So after having audio now, I'm not gonna record this a third time. But yes, so I caked them up because you know my love for caking up yarn. Let me show you in the detail. They're so beautiful. I'm so happy with them. So this is the fiber that I mentioned arrived. It did arrive that very day of my last recording. But I didn't insert it in the end because I had so much footage anyway, so I wasn't going to add more to it. And I thought I could just show you now. This is the two hand spun yarns that I'm planning to use. And I used two tops. I actually always said roving, but I learned now that this is actually the prep method is top. So it's like commercially combed top. it's not hand combed, it's like combed by, I actually don't know. I haven't really looked at the whole wrapping mechanism, but the fibers are all aligned in one go, and that's top, not roving. I don't know what roving is then. I don't know. Somebody educate me. I'm sorry. Yes, anyways, but it's two fibers that I mixed completely together. So both fibers are in both of these skeins. And the first one I used is the Malabrigo Noob in the Persia colorway, which is a really lovely mix of blues and aubergine. And the other one I used is from a German indie dyer, Regenbogenwolle. And this was the Raphael colorway base. And the mix is, hang on, let me check again. 60% Rambouillet, 20% alpaca, and 20% camel. And the Malabrigo Noob is 100% merino. So I have quite a few different fiber types in here, which was noticeable during the spinning, but went fine. So I spun on 2 bobbins. Oh yeah, and I've separated out the fiber and kind of color sorted it by color. So there's definitely this reddish brown section, then there is a very gray, blue-gray section, and then there was just a bunch of different blues, which is the complete second skein here. I haven't quite decided yet on how I'll space it out on the sweater. I'm actually already regretting a little bit that I did so much with this first colorway, the pink, that I started with, which I already had. Sorry, let me just get the... Sorry for reaching here. Yeah, this is something I already had spun just without any purpose, really. This is a merino linen blend, I think 20% linen or something like that, which I actually hand dyed with food dye. I tried to achieve a apricot color. You tell me if I succeeded. I don't know. I feel like it's a pink for me, but apricot, I guess, is a little bit of a pink. I think there should be a little bit more yellow in this to actually call it an apricot. But anyways, I thought it goes really well with the colors that are in this. So yeah, I thought to have like a little gradient, but this is a fairly solid color and it's turning out to be a big section of this sweater. I thought I would run out of this yarn way sooner than I am. I'm actually gonna make it through the whole first section of this sweater. So I don't know. Yeah, I should really hold and think now if I want to maybe rip back just a little bit to have like half of the first section of this solid and then go into this to have it a little bit more of a gradient like I was thinking I would have. Because yeah, I want this sweater to be blue. It's supposed to be a blue-gray sweater, and I think I need to look at the layout of the colors again, how much, I mean, right now, obviously, I only see the pink, so it's a very pink and gray. I mean, I love it. I really like those two colors together, don't get me wrong. I feel like just this section is actually getting a little bit too big in my mind. And since it is the one up top, it's the one kind of people notice the most, I feel maybe I want this to be a little bit shorter. Because this color comes again anyways. You have it in the sleeves again. So it's not like it never picks up again. So I'll need some yarn anyways for that. I mean, I could just use this. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, that's what I'm kind of arguing in my head right now. But then again, it is quite a lot of work. And this yarn, because this is my very first attempt at long draw, and not that that has anything to do with it, but I think I over twisted it a little bit. I did a chain ply with this, so this is a 3-ply, and it's just a little bit over twisted, so I feel like ripping it back might be a little bit of a pain. Whatever, I can try a few rows and see if I wanna continue or not. But I feel like I should definitely stop knitting with this color for sure now and make a change. But yeah, more of that in the project diary, I guess. And let's move on. The next project is crochet. As I mentioned, I started crocheting, and you might have noticed in the background there, last 2 episodes, this was just an empty kind of inlay in the wall, kind of an empty window, if you will. And my husband thought he could build a shelf for it with little cubby holes. Like, so there's like, I think about 40 of these little ones, and then we have a few bigger cubbies spread out in it. And we're planning on putting a lot of tech stuff in there, like camera gear and cables, batteries, USB sticks, all that kind of stuff. But as some of these things, batteries, USB sticks, are very, very small and kind of don't look very pretty in this kind of setting, I thought I could crochet a few like drawer units, if you will. So I looked up a square basket crochet method, and I found Yarn and Chai. She has a YouTube channel, but I think she's more a blogger. So she has a huge blog entry with all the written instructions on how to make this basket. I think it's called the square herringbone basket, I believe. I'll link it. And yes, but I don't know the first thing about crocheting. I know how to chain, because you do that in spinning too. But that's about it. I don't know any terminology, and there's even like different ones for the Americans and the British. They use different terms for the same stitch. So that's very confusing. But she has a video tutorial, which is perfect because I'll just follow along there. I didn't even bother to read, to be honest, because I wouldn't know what to do whatsoever. So I just followed along her video tutorial, and this is the first basket. I'm using Hobby ribbon in the sand colorway. It's a bulky weight, I think it goes by, and it's a like ribbon. In German you call it Bändchen. I really don't know how you call this in English. So it's where do you see this kind of flat type of cotton yarn? It's 100% cotton. And I'm using a 5mm crochet hook. I think it's a Prim plastic one, I don't know. Got it at Karstadt. And since I don't really know much about crocheting, this turned out way too big actually for one of the cubbies. So I'm still debating. Again, I'm debating. I don't have a problem with ribbing back, but it always takes me a little while to bite the bullet and do it. But ribbing back this kind of ribbon is a little bit annoying because it's not nice and flat then, and kind of because I did rib back this one already a little bit, and then kind of re-crocheting with it gets a little bit annoying because it's already like folded in places and it stays that way. So I don't know. I might just keep it as is and use it in the bathroom or something, because you can always use little baskets like this. So, I mean, it's not done. Man, crochet eats up a lot of yarn. That's crazy. I wasn't aware that crochet eats up so much yarn, but I guess that's the reason why you get this nice, more rigid texture, which is good for a basket, which is why I use crochet in the first place, because I thought a knitted basket will just flop together. But this design actually, like so far it's just one layer, but it actually crochets down in the, like you just fold back, you have a double brim, and she puts like a plastic netting in there to give it more structure, to actually have like a square shape. I'll see if I even need that, because I'll have it in the little square cubbies. It doesn't really need to stay on its own. So my plan was just to do the one layer and just shove it in and see how it is, if I even need more. But yeah, this one's too big, so I can't do it. And I only ordered one ball of this because I had no idea how far I would get with one. This is 100 gram. But yeah, this is already like half of this thing that's in there. So even if I would make this a little smaller to fit the cubbies, I could just get 2 out of one thing. And I ordered more yarn, and I ordered actually a little bit less bulky yarn. And I already started my second little thing. This one is also a Bändchen, ribbony kind of yarn, and it's the Junghanswolle bandana, which is this 100%? Oh no, it's 50% cotton and 50% polyester. So yeah, again, I don't know what this colorway is. Does it say here? No, it does not. 28. I think it might be the color number 28, but it's, again, just kind of a tan sand kind of colorway. Kind of further away than usual. So yeah, this is obviously creating a much thinner fabric, which I think is better actually, because like the thick fabric I have with this thicker yarn, it just steals more room, especially if you do a 2-layer brin. And then you kind of lose space to actually store things in there. So I think going with this thinner material might be a good way to go. I ordered 10 of these, so I'm committed. And yes, that's where we're going. That's all my works in progress. I do have one more knitting project I want to talk to you about, but I haven't even started it. The only thing I did is buying the pattern, and I probably won't start this yarn in quite a while. And let me tell you why. I'm talking about a blanket, and it is the, I'm not even going to show you here because it's way too small, but it is the Indian Nights blanket by Janice Hope. And I'm inserting a picture right now, and as you can see, it's a huge colorwork blanket. I think it's meant as a throw over a king-size bed. And I'm definitely not gonna make it that big. Not because I don't think I could do it. I think I would if I had the use for it. I just don't have a use for a blanket that big. I mean, we have a king-size bed, but we don't use the blankets over there. I mean, we rarely make our beds. So I'm not gonna throw a day blanket over it. I mean, if we have visitors, we do, but whatever. I don't think we have use for that, but what we have use for is blankets on the couch. So just to cuddle up, snuggle in the evenings, and then like a half size, like a 1 bed size blanket is way enough. So I think I'm gonna do half the size of this blanket. And as the name suggests, in the nights, it's the pattern theme, if you want, is all kind of like it's elephants, there is peacocks and some other kind of tropical bird, and then there's a lot of patterns that, yeah, just give off this Indian southern vibe, which is really beautiful. But the whole color scheme that she's using, because she's using like cold blues and dark blues and blacks and a bit of red and orange, gives to me a way more cold vibe. So I was definitely drawn in by the color. As you know, blue, right? I'm wearing blue again. Who's surprised? And then I was like, I don't know. Wouldn't it be cool to have a polar nights blanket instead of an Indian nights blanket? So what I did is I bought the pattern, and there is 14 different charts. So it's obviously like a patchwork kind of blanket. So you knit a bunch of squares, bigger ones, smaller ones. Some of them you steek so that they're triangles. And then there's like some zigzaggy parts in there, which I think you're also knitting in the round. I think you need quite long needles for that. I don't know. Anyways, so what I'm doing is I took all her charts, pretty much just steal the size of them, and I'm completely redoing the designs. I don't know if I'm going to completely redo them, because as I said, some of them really just have patterns on them, which aren't like the one I'm looking at right now here, square 8. It's just like a bunch of triangles, so that's not northern, southern, it's just triangles. So I might keep a few patterns as they are, but definitely the ones like the elephants, for instance, I'm redesigning. And let me show you, I did finish redesigning one of them, which is the elephant one, which is one of the, let me actually show you on my little side screen here. Oh, I'm so proud. I am so proud. I mean, if I need to do a lot of explaining, I guess it didn't succeed, but it's supposed to be the Aurora Borealis, and over a kind of night, how do you call that? Silhouette spruce tree forest, and there's a little cabin, a snow-covered cabin in front. So that's the first chart I redesigned, and as you could have seen, or as you would have seen, I did it manual. So I printed out a, I don't know how you call this, but the stitch chart, just like the little squares that are a little bit squished, so you get the proper like dimensions. Like I used, I forgot the link. I'll link it in the video description, but I used a web page where you can make knitting patterns and you can actually put in your gauge. So I put the gauge from the pattern she's using, Knit Picks palette. I'm not going to use Knit Picks palette, so I don't know if I'm a little bit stupid to just use off her gauge. I probably should, because my plan is, actually I didn't mention that when I was talking about this project, but for my shifty cardigan, I'm using the leftover I have from the hunter vest I knit for my husband, and the yarn I used here is the Filculana Pernia yarn, which is actually a fingering weight yarn. So I'm either gonna use exactly this weight, or I know this brand also has a thinner, like a light fingering, I guess it is then, which is a Peruvian Highland wool, and which is the Knit Picks palette. That is also Peruvian Highland wool, so it'll be the same base. It needs to be, because it's a steeked project, it needs to be sort of a bit grippier yarn, feltier yarn, which this is, but this is nice and soft, as I raved on and on about. I just love this yarn. There's going to be definitely a few more projects with this yarn on my horizon. And this might be one of them, or not might, this will be one of them. Yes, so this is what I'm planning to use for this. But now I don't really know why I'm talking about this. I kind of lost my thread here. Oh yeah, right, I was talking about gauge. So yeah, I never actually just knit flat with this, let alone with stranded. I need to get another color and just do a stranded colorwork swatch to get the gauge of this one. Then I'll know for this. But I think for the designing purpose, it's fine if I use her gauge. It'll be, I mean, oh, I hear my daughter. I'm sorry, I have to interrupt for a second here. Okay, my husband is taking care of her, which is nice. Anyways, so yes, I'm using the gauge of her pattern and to redesign this, but I'm sure if my gauge changes a little bit, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's a blanket. It'll end up some sort of rectangular shape, so it'll be fine. And yes, so this is the first design I changed, and I'm also working on a second one, but I'm definitely not quite as far. She had just a tropical bird, don't ask me what kind of bird, and I'm doing a raven. Yes, I'm having so much fun with this. Oh yeah, what I kind of got into saying, so what I'm doing is I take her pattern, and since I have it in a PDF format, right, and I kind of take it into Photoshop and PowerPoint. I really like working in PowerPoint with these kind of image playing around things, because I feel like PowerPoint is just super quick and easy, and you can actually do quite a few things in PowerPoint, I realized, that aren't like crazy image processing, but you can do quite a lot. Like you can take out backgrounds and things like that, which is way easier than in Photoshop, I find. It's like a one-click thing. And anyway, so I'm just taking a bunch of pictures and like underlaying them with a grid, and then I print it out, and then I use my light box, and then I use my pens to draw it on the paper, because I tried doing it in this program, or like online program that there is, where you can take an image from the internet, your own image, doesn't really matter, and it creates a color work chart for you off that image, and then you can obviously go and edit that. You can say how many colors you want and all that stuff, and how many rows and columns. But it works after a fashion, right? And what it definitely can't do, and what is important for this blanket, is that you always only have 2 colors in one row. I mean, you want to have more than 2 colors maybe in one picture, but you don't want to have more than 2 colors in one row, because I can knit fine 2 colors, like I can do it in one hand with the 2 fingers, and I can knit at a decent speed, I guess. And if you're knitting a project that big, you want it to be an enjoyable process. You don't want it to be super annoying, and it would be super annoying if you have a bunch of rows where there's 3 colors in it. So you want to avoid that. I mean, if you don't want to avoid that, go for it. But the design as it is from Janet's Hope definitely is just 2 colors at a time, and I don't want to stick to that too. So that is a bit of a challenge, just to make the picture still go right, but it's that's a designer's challenge. So I'm really excited. I mean, I hope this is okay. I don't know how designers feel about that, if you take their pattern and completely redesign it, especially like a color work thing. But I'm not planning on publishing this. I'm not planning on selling it or anything. So I feel like it's okay. And I mean, I'm attributing her. I mean, it's her design, right? And the whole working out how the squares and stuff goes together, which is why I'm picking a design that already exists, because I wouldn't want to deal with it. I just saw her design and I thought it was really, really cool. I just like different kind of imagery, right? So that's why I'm changing it after my fashion, I guess. And yes, I'm really enjoying the process. And this will definitely be a project that's a little bit on the long term. I actually haven't touched this for the last 2 weeks now. But now just talking about it, I'm kind of like, ooh, I want to get back into it and start working on it again, because I'm actually really excited about it and want to start knitting on it. But yes, this is all my knitting. As I mentioned, I do have a bit of sewing to show you. Sorry, I have to reach again. I got my sewing machine out because, as probably, I don't know, 90% of all the people who own a sewing machine are taking them out right now to sew masks, which is what I did too. Oh, there, great. So I sewed a few masks using some sort of camouflage-y fabric, which I had left over because I made a pair of pants for my husband's cousin. She's a hunter / fisher, and I figured, and she really liked that pants. I got them from Thailand, and she really said she liked them. So as a way of saying thank you to her for something, I made her a pair. Anyways, I picked this fabric and I still had some left, so this is why I'm using camouflage fabric for my masks. And I think I made 8 of them. It's a double-sided mask, so you have you can put like a filter in it. But I don't like the shape too much, to be honest. I mean, it fans out, so you have enough room and all that, but it's pretty warm. I don't know if that's just the type of fabric, because the inside lining is linen, and the outside is just a quilting cotton. But it's very, very warm, and it's just gonna get warmer now. I mean, summer is at the horizon, and how the situation is, it looks like we're gonna be having fun with this all summer. And yeah, so I want to try a different pattern that doesn't rise quite as high under the eyes, that you just have a bit more air, like the ones that kind of swoop up here, which are obviously a little bit trickier to sew or trickier to cut out. I mean, this is just made from squares, which is obviously very easy to cut out. But yeah, I do want to give that a go, see if I like them better. But we have them now because, like, starting on Monday, tomorrow, we have it's obligational to wear masks in shopping centers, just like grocery stores and public transport. So yes, we are going to need them. This is all I wanted to talk to you about. Let me just think. Did I mention everything? Yeah. If you made it till here, yay! Yeah, if you enjoyed this, and if you enjoyed watching the things I have to talk about, then why don't you subscribe? And I'm very, very proud, actually, that I'm sitting here a month after I recorded for my first the second episode. And yeah, I think the amount of knitting is really good. It's not like, I think the last video was just way too long, but it doesn't really matter. I'm really enjoying this. I'm trying to upload this a bit sooner. Again, it took me forever to edit the past one, but I'm learning this new program. I'm doing the whole editing with DaVinci Resolve, which is like a free software, but from what I can say, not really knowing anything about video editing software, it seems to be quite the powerful, involved program. Like, you can do everything with it, like color grading, and you can play around with the sound, and obviously cutting and editing. But yeah, it's I love learning new programs. I'm definitely a geek when it comes to that kind of stuff, so I just put in time. But yeah, then obviously it takes forever, and my computer isn't the fastest. I'm doing this just on my Surface Pro, which is just like a portable computer, and it takes quite long to like render everything, and I have to like render in between to make the playback a little bit not so choppy, because if it's choppy, it's super hard to see if you whatever underlying text and stuff, if it's actually at the right moment. Anyways, it just takes quite a while, and the last time it just stopped, like it died like 3 times, I think, during the rendering process, and it takes like about a day to do it. So, and yeah, and then uploading it, and nobody needs to know. It's all just excuses. It's not really excuses. I really enjoy it, but I always just feel bad, uploading like 2 weeks after I actually recorded, because I feel it's not on topic anymore for some reason. But it doesn't really matter. Again, I hope I'll be a little bit faster with this one and upload it a little bit more at a decent time, and hope you guys tune in, and tune in again for the next one. Until then, bye!